Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there.
We hope you guys are doing well.
Indeed, we do.
So here we see a picture. It looks like a person just meditating there, and I don't know, would some say perhaps that person's gathering or maybe even generating life force, ki, chi, prana, vril?
Yep, I would say he's gathering it for sure.
Okay, would you? It looks like it, though. We do see sparks kind of flying out in all different colors. This is a good color. It's a nice vibration of frequency. Again, every color has its own associated frequency to it. Now, I wanted to share with you guys some of the things that might seem magical, but they're really not. It's just simply things that are not fully understood in the West. But rapidly, people are catching on now in these days. And what can be done with the mind is just amazing. I remember seeing this gentleman, top left. He, at a distance, could make cows go to sleep. He would just kind of wave his hands in a passive way, sending the life force over there. And one by one, a whole flock, I should say a herd of cattle would one by one just start dropping to its knees and laying down. It was so funny to watch, but all using the life force. Many people they don't have a clue of what can be done with the life force. So this is on EEARTS. This is our energy healing Qigong meditation playlist. So there's 32 videos up there. Check them out and practice them. And we've had countless people that have tried these meditations and they've had amazing effect. They found themselves grounded, their energy flowing better, just feeling better overall.
Absolutely. Very, very good for your health.
Yes. And we do want to ask everybody to subscribe both to Evolutionary Energy Arts and to EEARTS. And these playlists are on both. This one was one on Evolutionary. And there are some unique things still on both channels. There was a time when I thought Evolutionary was going to be totally taken down. So I started to bring everything over to EEARTS. But then it seems like it's going to be able to stay up. So you have 41 videos over here, healing through energy work on EEARTS. And then over here, 32 on Evolutionary. I wanted to share some photos with you guys. This is of a couple that does follow the channel, and they are also Qigong practitioners. And I would say they're pretty gifted, because I do feel that these are authentic photos that they sent to us. And here you can see, there is a practice where we hold the ball, and in Qigong and in Tai Chi, where you make an energy ball with your hands and you move it around. As you're doing that, you're actually also circulating the energy throughout the body, throughout the different meridians. And this is pretty cool, because you also see these other orbs in this photo, which, the orbs are consciousnesses and beings on what we would call fourth density. The energy lights up. It's just like walking down the street and all of a sudden you see a really bright light, and you got to go check it out, because, hey, there's a bright light over there. What could that possibly be? Mm-hmm. Right? And they come and they look and they're curious.
Right. You just never know what you're going to run into on that end of things.
Well, we've had countless occurrences. I mean, it's a daily thing with us, because, again, of the energy practice, the spiritual practices, which cultivate the life force. The life force is all around us. They've done a good rendition of trying to explain it via Star Wars and the Force. The Force is everywhere, the life force. And it's intelligence. It's consciousness itself. It's everything that comes from source.
Right. Well, when we work on people, we're working with that silent energy that's always listening, and it's always listening for instruction. And that's why when we work on someone, I always tell them to find a very happy place in your head. Think of the best time in your life when you were the most happy, when you were the most healthy. Hold that image while we work on you, because that's looking for information on which way does it have your subconscious turn.
Science has had everything, Western science, I should say, has had everything kind of inside out, upside down, backwards. Yes, the body does generate electrical fields. That part is true, but consciousness is what brings the template, the etheric template, into being in the first place. So it's really consciousness that guides the creation and also the maintenance of the body. We can change our health just through intention and breathing. It's just that simple. And one thing that you can do to get yourself out of fight or flight, because again, your nervous system is a two-way switch, and you're just switching between one state of being and another state of being. You're either in fight or flight, and you're making cortisol, or you're in rest and digest, and you're making serotonin and melatonin, which are both, feel good. And melatonin, some of you out there might be supplementing with melatonin if you have trouble sleeping. And these two things are produced in the pineal gland. The pineal gland is so important, it cannot be understated. The eye of Horus, the eye of Ra, all these little things that point to the significance of this. The pineal gland's also a place where the Shen is stored, and we'll be getting that into that as we go along with this. And Shen is basically spirit. So you could see, building energy balls. That's what we do in Qigong consciously. We consciously are gathering the life force around us. And what does that do for us? Everything. When the life force is depleted in the body's dead. The life force is what animates the body. The body is nothing without the life force. It'll immediately start to break down and decompose.
Yes, we have to have our bodies really healthy, and what we eat really matters. We want to have that electricity inside of our body, so our cells, as they vibrate, they can exchange information as needed. And with the Western diet, I think it's almost like they make it so deliberate to slow our cells down and bring them to a halt so they can't exchange information and heal.
And again, here we see they're consciously creating the energy. And in this type of position, yes, this position in Tai Chi can be basically looked at as blocking a strike from above and possibly blocking a strike coming from below. But when we block in Tai Chi, what we're also doing is we're sending the Wei Qi around a certain area. The Wei Qi is the external Qi field, and that's also kind of like our shields. We've referenced this before when we talk about Qigong. So you can actually build up a strong shield, so to speak, for your body, where pathogens, things like viruses and bacteria, if you have enough life force, they won't come through and affect you. They won't be able to. It's when our life force gets weakened, when we don't get good sleep, when we're not taking in good foods, when we're not, getting exercise. Think about cardiovascular exercise. Obviously, it pumps blood out of the heart in ever increasing quantities as we get the heart racing, right? But it's also taking in the oxygen because your breathing rate increases. So as you're taking in the oxygen, it's not just the oxygen, you're taking in the actual life force itself.
You're creating that life force. It's like energizing yourself. It's very important to have this done every day.
Absolutely. It's of critical importance in these times, especially because, again, our bodies are being assailed all the time throughout everything that we are breathing, eating, drinking. It's just, as you can see, this buildup. And what does this do? See how bright the chi is building up? And look at all the orbs, all the consciousnesses that are coming and taking a look. Yeah, exactly. we can do amazing things. So when we see something like this photo, and, people will say, well, it's photoshopped, and it is. This one is. But this doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just outside of the visible spectrum for us in these bodies. As we know, there's much more out there than just that which lies within the visible light spectrum. Doesn't mean it's not there if you can't see it. It's just outside of your physical capabilities. However, you can also develop the ability to see the life force in so many ways. We are already doing this. Just coming in with the information that's coming from the sun all the time. As long as we get out there and we get that sun on the face. That's what the guys were saying. They were saying you don't even have to have full skin immersion in the sun to get the downloads and to get the DNA upgrades. You really just want to at least get it on the face and also, on the forehead where the pineal gland lays underneath the surface.
Right. You need those upgrades. You need that information coming from source.
Absolutely. So I just thought that these were really very cool photos, and I was glad that they shared them with us. Again, somebody that's gifted too with a digital camera, you could get tons of orbs. It doesn't mean it's all dust mites and things like that. No. There's differences, and a lot of times when these orbs too, as we've said in the past, you can actually see faces. Now, there is a lot to the Taoist philosophy, and again, many people might be familiar with Taoism. As you see, simplicity, patience, and compassion, those are your three greatest treasures. Taoist line of thinking is all about harmony and balance. It really is. As we see the yin and the yang, which is symbolized by this design with the light and the dark and the interplay in between, and there's some light in the dark, there's some dark in the light. It's also representing the divine masculine, divine feminine. And the I Ching as well is something that one could spend a lifetime studying. The Tao Te Ching, we did do a video, and I know I went through every single verse in a video. So we do have a video, I think it's on EEARTS, going through every verse of the Tao Te Ching, which is a classic. And it's all about consciousness. It's all about us, and it's about source and how source acts. And this is a symbol that we see, which is interesting because it's obviously in regards to energy and the movement of energy. This comes out of the Taoist school, and this is actually Celtic. So isn't that curious? Again, there's ancient knowledge that was held by certain people in tribes that is ancient. It's ancient. It vastly predates this Kali Yuga. And we've maintained some of this knowledge. And so it almost always makes me kind of laugh on the inside and shake my head at the same time when people say stuff like, oh, well, we don't get into any of that new age stuff, because what they're saying is, oh, well, we don't understand any of the ancient science. Mm-hmm. That's really what you're saying. I don't have a clue about that ancient science, because that's what this is. This is the leftover old knowledge that was basically guarded by the elites, kept from the masses, and also kept in the mystery schools and the secret societies.
Yeah, it was kept from people so that you can't develop your light body and your abilities to create change out in the ether, because we do have that ability. Our thoughts are things, and they're very, very important things. So when we create a thought, we have to understand that we're bringing it to life. So when you want to create healing in someone, you create that vision for that person, and it's an actual thing, and it's going to listen for instructions. So all of these things have been kept hidden from us for a very long time.
Absolutely. And so I've always wanted to draw the life force from both heaven and earth. And some of you might have received Reiki training, where you channel the life force in through the crown chakra, and most of the time, maybe you're somebody that will visualize using different colors, because you understand colors are frequencies. Each frequency has its own ability to affect mind, body, spirit complex, to use the term that comes out of the Law of One, in a different way. But many are taught in Reiki just to let the crystalline light or the crystalline white light, which does contain all the different hues in it, to channel through the crown chakra and then send it out your hand into the person that you're working on. I always like to root and ground first to the earth, feel that connection with the earth energy coming in through the bubbling wells, which are on the feet. They're foot chakras that are very large, and they're basically right there, kind of in the center point of the foot, right behind the knuckles of the toe. And you'll feel those points tingling and vibrating. For me, they never stop vibrating. They never stop tingling at any time during the day. It's just a matter of how much they're tingling and vibrating. It's the same thing with my hand chakras. And then I connect and draw down the energy from the heavens through what they're calling the personal star energy. And you draw it into the dantian. When you only see it referred to as the dantian, they're talking about the lower dantian. There's actually 3 dantians, which are basically reservoirs for energy. And then you can channel it into another person. And I was blessed today with a wonderful energy session that Cindy did for me. And it was fabulous. And the guides worked with her directly and worked through her. And here you can see the 7 main chakras that we talk about, and where they are. Coincidentally, they're by nerve ganglia centers, and it's not a coincidence at all, because this is all related. There is, just like there is a vascular network, there is an energetic vascular network, so to speak, in the body, and they are called nadis in the yoga tradition, or meridians in traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture. So you can see the chakras, which are really these whirling vortices, they're there, and they should be circulating in the clockwise manner, drawing in life force from the cosmos. You could think of them as kind of like black holes, pulling in the life force, pulling in the energy into the body, into the system of nadis, of meridians, which then feed the organs. And not just feeding the physical 3D body, but it's also part of the energy system and our multidimensionality. As we practice Qigong and we study how to pull in the life force, which really is something that at first, really, it's going to be a little bit matter of faith in some ways. You have to know you can. You have to get to that point that you know you can. And I did practice diligently for 3 to 4 months before I felt anything. And, this was, again, closing in on 35 to 40 years ago. So a long time, as I am pretty ancient now. It was in my early 20s when I started my regular Qigong practice. After taking hard martial arts and understanding Qi and Qi to a degree, then I delved full in later on as I started to mature. When we build up the life force, you could think of this as a stream that flows upwards. So as we build up and gather the life force, it'll eventually fill up the lower dantian. The lower dantian is all about the physical energy. We can call it Jing. It's all about a more physical form of Qi for maintaining the physical body. When that it gets to the point where it's saturated to where it'll overflow and start to rise upwards, it goes into the middle dantian, which is the emotional center. It's in between the heart chakra and the solar plexus chakra. And then when that's full, it'll rise up into the upper dantian. And when the body dies, that which you take with you is only that's inside the upper dantian. So the ultimate goal of Qigong, which is known also as the practice of the immortals, there are legends of beings that have made themselves immortal through the practice of Qigong. And again, this is something that's thousands of years old. as many sources will quote it as being 5,000 years old or so. And in reality, it's leftover science again that comes from a different era, comes from a time when we're not in the Kali Yuga. But the upper dantian, that's right at the pineal gland, guys. It's right at the pineal gland. So this is a little article that I'll attach the links so you can see there's basically 12 primary or principal meridians. There's 8 extraordinary vessels. You know, you only really have to understand all that when you start to get deep into Qigong. And this is the difference between, say, learning Reiki and learning medicinal Qigong, because you actually learn what you would learn if you're going to be an acupuncturist or eventually become a traditional Chinese medicine doctor or doctor of medical Qigong. But it is good knowledge to understand how things flow, because a lot of times people will have a pain, say, on a big toe. We had somebody recently, and it's like, okay, is it the outer or is it the inner part of the right big toe?
I was looking at her toe, and I had to describe where I saw the light and where I saw the darkness, and based on that, you were able to find that meridian.
Yeah, which was her spleen meridian. So, you know, and again, it's because she had been going through a period of detoxing and trying different things, and what was happening was her system was having a hard time keeping up with having the blood purified. Sorry about the monkeys in the background there. And, you know, the spleen is one of the agents that helps to purify the blood. So, you know, then that gave us an idea of how we could help her. So this is where things like understanding the meridians, understanding the vessels, and understanding the way that chi flows can help. So it gets very complicated, and, you know, typically if you were to be a doctor of Qigong, it's years. It's years and years on top of years and years. So there's an awful lot to memorize. What's fascinating is the as above, so below. And here you see a diagram showing this is basically representing the human body again, with the lower dantian, the middle dantian, the upper dantian, the two main primary meridians, which are the governing and the conception, and they flow in a circuit, which we would call the microcosmic orbit. And we could go in the Kan and the Li paths, which are basically the fire and water path. And one has a cooling and one has a heating effect, as you would I guess you would guess that, but just by the words that are used. So, you know, one of the primary things that we do, and again, I would strongly recommend people come over and do the short Qigong program, because what that'll do is it'll open up those 12 primary meridians. It'll get the stagnant energies cleared out, and it'll help to even out the energies going through the body, the organs, and the meridians.
Mm-hmm. Very good for the body. Helps you grow that light.
And this program, as you can see, is 27 minutes long. You can do it till you kind of remember it on your own, and then you could even do an abbreviated version. And most of the time, you could cover what you need to cover in maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Realistically, once you get comfortable with the process, there's 8 particular moves that we go through, and in some traditions called 8 pieces of brocade. So again, I would strongly recommend trying to stick with this for a period of time, and then you could jump into the full class, which gets into a lot other details and is very, very complete. So I just want to give you guys some basics, but one of the postures that we use in what's called Zhang Shuang, which is basically after we make sure that the meridians are open, the energy's flowing nice and evenly through the body, then we'll go to a standing pose that we're not going to be moving from for a period of time, and we're going to be gathering the life force consciously. Every breath, you're inhaling and you're visualizing yourself pulling up through the foot chakras and down through the crown chakra. And the crown chakra is right at the top of the skull where the plates all come together, where as a baby there's a soft spot at the top of the head. So inhale, draw the life force in, gather it in your hands, gather it in your arms. So if you guys remembered when we were looking at these photos, and this is what is so beautiful about them sharing this, you can see where she's gathering the life force right there. And here, there's a orb right between his hands, as this is where she is gathering the life force right there as well. So we want to gather that life force in, and then we're going to basically, there we go. Then we're basically going to store it in the first or the lower dantian. And we're just going to do that for a long period of time. And I would recommend, instead of holding here at first, hold it at your lower dantian itself. So basically have your hands facing your navel, about an inch or two below your navel, and just feel the warmth there. Again, when we look at these areas, you can see the lower dantian, here's the navel. So you're going to be gathering it like in this area. Any comments over there?
Well, no, I mean, it's just something that's really helpful if you're on a healing journey and a healing path and you want to progress in this path. This is something that you would want to do and get proficient at it, because this grows that inner light. That inner light is what is going to heal us and actually kind of brighten our path as far as which direction do we take to heal, because many of us have traumas that are vast and they're coming from many different directions, and we don't always know which way to turn. When we grow this inner light, it helps light our path.
Absolutely. And it's just a matter of sticking to it. So again, I would definitely recommend doing just a short program to get started with. If you are up to it, you could go through the long program as well, but I know so many people are always basically pressed for time. So you could get in what you could get in. But here you could see also, again, that representation of the three main energy centers, the three dantians there. And again, they correlate to basically the womb, and then the heart, and then the pineal. And it's fascinating too, because again, our energy centers, if we were to look at our human energy field, it's going to be a torus, and it's the exact same shape as what we find with the Earth's, and also with the galaxy and the universe itself. When we do stand like this, you want to actually kind of make it like you're going to go and just lean up on a bar stool. You flatten your spine, and I don't think this gives you quite enough representation of the flattening of the spine, and you pull up the perineum. The perineum is that point between the genitals and the anus, and it's important to kind of pull up there to seal off the energy. And here you see a gentleman that's a little bit advanced up there in age, and he's doing his gathering at his lower dantian. Then you could also progress to what we call pore breathing or skin breathing, which we do have several videos on that as well. And that's a practice that helped me when I ruptured L4 and L5 in my spine, because I couldn't do the regular session. I couldn't stand up for a while. I was in so much pain with 2 ruptured discs. So what did I do? I just basically drew the life force in when I was lying there on the ground, because the bed was not comfortable either. So I just had a few days to a week of just basically a blanket on the ground doing the pore breathing, and never had surgery, never went the chop shop route, and was able to work through it. But just basically pulling the life force in through every chakra, through the entire surface of the skin, and visualizing sending it to where you need it. And there's also another process called packing process breathing, where you actually visualize it going all the way into the bone marrow, see it energizing the blood, and that's a very, very powerful practice in Iron Shirt Qigong. So I hope you guys found this interesting. As always, we want to thank our supporters on Patreon and Ko-Fi. We couldn't do it without you. Do check out Medicinal Foods. Make sure to use coupon code EEA. Get you a discount. Does support the channel. Lots of good products there. As always, guys, much love. God bless, and namaste.
Namaste.